It's a crazy world, crazy world. Somebody's gotta have to save you. It's a crazy world. It's a crazy world. Somebody's gotta have to save you.
What's going on, everybody? Hi, I'm Dave Rubin. This is the Rubin Report. It is December 18th in the year 2024. We are live streaming as we are one to do on Rumble, on YouTube, on Locals. And as we have Christmas and Hanukkah rolling around, why don't you do me a solid and subscribe to our channels if you have not. If you'd like to play along post-game, rubinreport.locals.com. We dive into the issues a little bit deeper. We take your questions, your commentary. Sometimes you correct me. Sometimes you give me a little fashion pointer or tell me my hair was a little flat or this or that or the other thing. That's how we do it. And today's show, I'd like to say that today's show is sort of a classic Rubin Report. It's just a solid bunch of information that we've put together for you people. My hope as we roll into Christmas and the New Year is that things kind of calm down for a little bit. I think there is a sense, putting aside that whole drone situation, and maybe there's a dirty nuke rolling around the East Corridor up there from somewhere in Jersey or New York, which I don't really think is the case. I do sense things are calming down a little bit. Maybe I'm wrong, but my hope is that the year will end in a somewhat peaceful manner, even in the Middle East, where things seem to be ordering themselves in some sense, and that we can get into the new year strong and then really just get to January 20th, where we can truly start changing things. But there are going to be some people that are going to be pushing against change. There are going to be always people in politics and the media particularly who are for the system. They don't like the fact that we're sort of pulling that curtain back and seeing on the other side. And today's show really is about some of the people who are trying to change things, largely for the positive, I would say, and the opportunity that now exists that we all can see. And the agents, I would say, if this is the Matrix, it's like the agents who are out there working for the system, trying to stop everyone from doing good work. So let's just dive right in. Do you know this woman, Elizabeth Warren? This is a woman who pretended to be a Native American so that she could get a job at Harvard. She is 1/64th Native American. You, person watching this, are probably more Native American than she is. She's a socialist also, and really has been nothing other than just like a machine politician. She somehow is worth 60 mil while she's a politician. She's also the woman who, when she was running for president, she wanted to show how normal she was, which is why she did that little video in her kitchen. And she said, "I'ma get me a beer," because that's what we all do when we're getting beers. Like, she's just a terrible, horrible person. Oh, and the other thing, as you know, she loves to kill little babies. Big fan of killing and murdering children. Anyway, she's very upset that Elon Musk and Donald Trump are working together, and you're not going to believe why she thinks they're working together.
So think about it this way. Here is this man, richest man in the world, who has multiple companies. So he's got Tesla, the electric car maker. He's got X. He's got Neuralink. He's got SpaceX and a handful of other companies. Those companies are directly involved with the United States government. Millions and millions of dollars worth of government contracts, millions of touch points where there are rules that will affect those companies, like a $7,500 rebate for electric cars. Investigations that are currently ongoing into the practices of each of those companies and, in some cases, into Mr. Musk himself. And here he is whispering into the ear of Donald Trump. So what is he whispering? Is he whispering, here are ways to help the American people? Or is he thinking through ways to make those companies richer, to back off the regulators, or to end any investigations into his work? This is conflicts of interest at a level that we have never before seen in this country. And it is critically important, first of all, that we call it out, and second, that we start to push back and say, no, the American public has a right to know who's giving this kind of advice to Donald Trump. Someone who's helping the American people, or just helping himself.
All right, first off, we'll get to Elizabeth Warren in a second. But, I always call Chris Hayes a Muppet, and I just realized there's a little something I'd like to add. Can we throw a little B-roll quick of him on there? Because there's something
So,
about him. He
think
looks
about
like
it
he's
this-
trying to figure out who farted, but he also knows that he's the one who farted, because he's probably in that room alone. But okay, putting that aside for a moment, Elizabeth Warren, she's actually evil. The baby murder aside, and that's pretty evil, her obsession with murdering babies. She strikes me as the evil librarian in a 90s teen movie who you then find out is a demon. She rips her mask off and you find out she is a demon. Everything she said there is complete nonsense. Just think about it, and this is what they do with everything, right? You know the left. It's very thin ideas that if you just peel that thin veneer, you then see the nastiness beneath it. The idea that it's bad that the guy who created Tesla and Neuralink, which is literally allowing paraplegics to now play chess with their mind, and SpaceX, which is sending rockets up there and catching them down here, and all of these other things, the idea that you wouldn't want someone like him helping with government projects, trying to figure out how can we do this more efficiently? How can we dream again? How can we do cool things? Most people, if the government worked properly, wouldn't be so against the government. But she's all for the bureaucracy, right? When they're always telling you Donald Trump's coming for democracy, what they really mean is Donald Trump's coming for bureaucracy. And she, as a big government socialist, that's what she represents, the protection of bureaucracy. She wants more tax dollars to do what she wants to do. She wants to hurt people who earn and then have her own pet projects. She just doesn't like the pet projects of this particular man. The idea that he's going to go after regulators. Oh no, not the regulators. That would be just terrible. And also that he might be upset that there are investigations going on around him. Yeah, because we've had a weaponized Department of Justice. I think Donald Trump might know a little something about that. So this really, the reason I wanted to start with that today is it really shows you the dichotomy right now. We have people who want to create, not only want to create, but who have been creating incredible things that Donald Trump is now bringing into this administration. And it's not just Elon. We have people who are thinking about things in a new way, who are ready generationally for change and all these things. And then you're going to have places like the televised mental institution known as MSNBC, and hosts who are Muppets trying to figure out who farted, and then senators like Elizabeth Warren who will just push the old thing because the old thing is their grift. So basically, Elon Musk is trying to break all of the things that she exists to protect. That is where we are at. And if you'd like some more proof of it, Liz, if you're watching the show, it's not just that he did Neuralink and Twitter and the Boring Company and SpaceX and all that. He's actually also trying to revolutionize education, which that's got to be the scariest one for you because you need kids who are clones and drones, not who can think for themselves.
Steve Jobs had to run Pixar and Apple for a while. But Musk is in a league of his own in the way he does it. In a given day, he'll focus sequentially on many different things. Musk, every couple of hours, is switching his mindset from how to implant the Neuralink chip and what will the robot that implants it in the brain look like and how fast can we make it move, and then the heat shield on the Raptor, or switching to human imitation, machine learning, full self-drive. On the night that the Twitter board agreed to the deal, this is huge around the world. I'm sure you remember, like Musk buys Twitter. But then he went to Boca Chica, to South Texas, and spent time fixating on, if I remember correctly, a valve in the Raptor engine that had a methane leak issue. This guy just bought Twitter. When he's focused on any of these things, you cannot distract him. And it's not like he's also thinking about, I'm dealing with Starlink, but I've got to also worry about the Tesla decision on the new $25,000 car. Now, he'll, in between these sessions, process information, then let off steam. For better or worse, he lets off steam by either playing a friend in Polytopia or fire off some tweets. It's a release for him. He's a serial tasker, which means focuses intensely on a task for an hour, almost has a palate cleanser with Polytopia, and then focuses on the next task.
Okay, so I got slightly ahead of myself there. That's Walter Isaacson, who is the Elon Musk biographer, talking about sort of how he thinks, how he's able to organize all of his ideas and then move on to other things. So now to the thing that I mentioned, which is that now he has a Montessori school, an education venture that has now started in Austin, Texas. Check this out from Fox Business. Elon Musk is making yet another business move, and this time he's reimagining what education in the U.S. could be. The multi-billionaire has started funding Ad Astra, a Montessori private preschool outside of Bastrop, Texas, recently issued state documents show. The preschool will be located on 40 acres of land, and a 4,000 square foot home will be remodeled for the project, according to Texas Health and Human Services documents obtained by Bloomberg. Ad Astra's website says it will be centered around hands-on project-based learning, where children are encouraged to explore, experiment, and discover solutions to real-world problems. Ad Astra offers a progressive learning environment that emphasizes the integration of science, technology, engineering, mathematics, STEM stuff into its curriculum. The website describes the curriculum as being carefully sequenced and activity-based, aimed at allowing children to develop essential skills and problem-solving techniques at their own pace. The unique approach prepares children for and ultimately mastery of reading, writing, and mathematics, the website says. So now do you get it? Do you get it why someone like Elizabeth Warren, who just wants to rule over you and have their projects and have their power and have their money and tax you to the nth degree and tell you that you should basically be a cog in the machine, a slave to the system, why she would be very upset about not only someone who creates all sorts of really cool things that were the dreams of sci-fi, like the automated cars and the rockets and the Neuralink and all that, but also now perhaps doing the most dangerous thing, which is attacking our systems of education, so that maybe having all of these kids in 40-person class in state-run school where education teaches them that America is bad and our founding was based on slavery and their genitals don't match their gender, instead they're going to be doing Montessori learning with probably some of the best educators on the planet. That's why they're going after Elon Musk. It has nothing to do with anything else. Of course, the other part of this is that the culture has now shifted to such a point that nobody is listening really, or I would say a decreasing amount of people are listening to these crazy lefties. And now you're seeing the cultural change in that. So check this out from Libs of TikTok. Breaking: Disney has decided to pull transgender storyline from their upcoming Pixar streaming series Win or Lose, according to Disney's official statement. When it comes to animated content for a younger audience, we recognize that many parents would prefer to discuss certain subjects with their children on their own terms and timeline. Is Disney finally realizing that if you go woke, you go broke? And just a bit more from The Hollywood Reporter, Disney pulls transgender storyline from Pixar's Win or Lose streaming series. The original animated show about a co-ed high school team debuts on Disney Plus in February. Guys, we can clearly link this to everything that Ron DeSantis did as it related to that nonsensical don't say gay thing and going after Disney. But the point is the culture has now shifted. Kids shows can be for kids again. You know, I mention often that we don't do a lot of TV with the kids. We do a little bit of Bluey, which is an Australian show about a little dingo and dogs and the family, and it's light and whatever. And we're doing Frog and Toad on Apple TV, which is pretty good. And we don't like a lot of like overstimulation and flashing and all of that stuff. But I watch these things with them in the few moments that we do it. And you want to make sure that your kids aren't being slammed with political nonsense. That's all anyone wanted. So everything that they're upset about now, that they're seeing their influence and power go away, is because they did not check any of it, right? They thought they could have everything. And then finally enough of us said no more. One of the guys who said no more is RFK Jr. We'll have more on him in just a sec, but first let me talk to you about preserved gold. Folks, we're living in unpredictable times with digital currencies on the rise, a whopping $35 trillion in national debt, and inflation still at a 40-year high. For these reasons and more, the Big Short traders, known for their successful bet against the housing market back in 2008, are warning that Americans don't have enough gold in their portfolios. Their advice comes amid massive central bank gold buying taking place globally and spiraling $35 trillion in national debt lingering across the U.S. That's why you should strongly consider physical gold and silver to help help you protect your retirement accounts like IRAs and 401ks. Preserve Gold is giving away a no-cost, no-obligation free wealth protection guide that contains 25-plus pages of detailed information and insights. Learn how you can put physical gold and silver into an IRA or 401k and even purchase precious metals for delivery directly to your home. All you need to do is text the word Dave to 50505. Preserve Gold has hundreds of 5-star reviews and millions of dollars in trusted transactions with satisfied clients. As an exclusive offer for my viewers, in addition to their free guide, you can also get up to $15,000 in free gold and silver with a qualified purchase. Just text Dave to 50505 to receive this exclusive offer. All right, so there's a lot of cool stuff happening, right? Well, many of us, I was at an event last night with Ben Shapiro. There's just so many people right now. I mean, the main thing that people are coming up to me and saying is they're hopeful again. They feel good about things. Like, we're in this weird time until Trump takes over, but like, you can just feel some real opportunity and a rejuvenation of America right here. But what sits with that is that, well, now Trump's got a real all-star team around him. You want to call it the Avengers, whatever you want to call it. And RFK, who by any standard variance would have been a Democrat, is now part of that. So the machine is really going after him. We showed you a clip of Dr. Peter Hotez yesterday. This is a guy who was on, during COVID, was on Rogan many times, pushing masks and vax and all of the stuff. He's sort of a mainstream guy, and that was for Rogan, at least before he was fully red-pilled on a lot of stuff. But Hotez is now going around and really going after RFK. And as I mentioned yesterday, it's one thing when they try to scare you about certain things that like are outside of your house, but when they really try to scare you about health, I mean, just think back to COVID, that's when they can make you do crazy things. And do you think they're going to start doing that again? Well, just take a look at this.
This is a fragile vaccine ecosystem, and I'm worried all of these horrific scourges. And both as a vaccine scientist and a pediatrician, I've taken care of children with Hib, Haemophilus meningitis, or congenital rubella syndrome, or gasping for air from whooping cough, or intubated because of measles, pneumonia. These are horrible, horrible diseases. They're all coming back because of this kind of rhetoric. And that's my number one concern. And also the chilling effect it'll have on, as one of your guests or panel members mentioned, on bringing new vaccines to the attention of the FDA. I'm worried this will have a chill.
It's just so incredible that people like him who have been so discredited, right? We read you the tweet yesterday where Rogan said, hey, you've been on my show, you've been going after RFK, I'll donate $100,000 to a charity of your choice if you'll debate him. And then he immediately said no, right? And I think, as I mentioned yesterday, I think that ultimately got to over $1 million because other people jumped in. But do you see what they're doing? There is no evidence that because of the rhetoric of someone like RFK that whooping cough is back. There's simply no evidence of that. Now, we can always have all of the debates and conversations, and this is what actually the true nature of science is to get to the truth through the scientific method. You should always have the debates about vaccine schedules and do these things work and have they been tested properly and all of these things. But all they're going to throw at RFK right now, because there again, what is this guy doing? He's protecting the bureaucracy. He's protecting he's protecting the NIH and the CDC, these organizations that if you didn't learn it after 3 years of COVID, don't care about you that much. It's not just him that will protect the bureaucracy. It's also the crazy harpies over at The View. Sunny Hostin, who, as you know, I have a constant debate with my friend Megyn Kelly as to whether she's the most awful racist person on television. That's my position. Hers is that it's Joy Reid. We'll have a little bit of joy in a bit. But here she is with this is deep, deep analysis of what RFK really thinks about things. Watch.
We live in a country where crap is put in our food that makes us sick, and then pharmaceuticals come in and throw pills at it. So we're living in a cycle where it feeds the corporate greed to keep us not well.
I'm not against Eastern medicine, but I've been married to a Western medicine doctor for 26 years, and I trust him over anybody else telling me that what's making people have certain ailments, or if I need a knee replacement, I should just put maybe some kind of like herbal patch on it.
No, but even so, with the RFK, like he's gonna come up against the state-of-the-art best doctors in America. Many of them are careers at HHS. That's somewhere that Dr. Fauci served for many years.
Has a real medical degree.
He's going to get pushback on this. This idea that he's going to come in with no medical degree and just take vaccines off the shelves. There are experts there who are going to challenge him on some of those things. And that's a healthy...
All right, I'll try to do the give him credit part first. What's her name with the cookie over there? Alyssa Farah? Yeah, you're right. He's not just going to come in and ruin the place and just completely ignore science. He's going to look around and be like, who is connected to vaccine makers? And why were you on the board over here? And was there proper efficacy checked on this and that and the other thing? So I'll give you that. I'll also give Sara Haines over there. Mom, I remembered her name. Sara Haines. There you go. I'll give her credit because she's now repeating what RFK has been saying for 40 years, but particularly in this past year as he was running for president, which is that there's a food system designed to make us sick and a pharmaceutical system designed to deal with the ailments, thus profiting the systems having nothing to do with the health of the people. And then, of course, the brilliant Sonny Hostin, right? That's really the point there. Sonny, there is literally no one. There is not one person, but if we can find him, I'll put him on the show, that thinks if you need a knee replacement that you can put an herbal patch on and that it will fix. I was at the doctor yesterday for my torn ACL doing PRP. I was not offered an herbal patch. I was offered surgery if I want to do it. I just don't want to do it right now. They're just absolutely terrible. And, well, I'm going to show you more terribleness. Joy Behar. Oh, Joy. Joy, it's the season of joy, but there's not a lot of joy around there. Here she is still sucking off Anthony Fauci.
Remember when during COVID, he said, no masks, you don't need masks. That was also BS. He attacked Dr. Fauci, who was really trying to help everybody. Yeah. He pushed deworming medication for horses on us. And the worst, the pièce de résistance, as they say, is he sent COVID tests to Putin.
Yeah.
That really ticked me off.
When we really needed them here.
But when we needed them here. So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, do you actually believe this man? No.
Yes, Anthony Fauci, when he was locking you in your house and telling you that you couldn't see your child for 8 days, so you were sliding gruel under the door and keeping kids out of school and had your grandmother die without you going to the funeral. He was just trying to help. He's just a great guy, emailing his friends that masks don't work while he was putting you in masks. He's just a great guy, just a great guy. But again, they are defending the bureaucracy as opposed to defending the individual, and that's what I care about. By the way, when she talks about horse dewormer, the NIH itself, and you can check this on c19early.org, is now citing 99 new studies with 137,000 patients showing that ivermectin actually inhibits COVID-19 replication. So, Joy, you get the point. I know it's an oldie but a goodie, but just throw me a little compilation of Anthony Fauci lying, would you?
I don't know how many times I can say it, Madam Chair. We did not fund gain-of-function research to be conducted in the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
In our health lead, we now know that a bat coronavirus was enhanced in a lab.
NIH and NIAID categorically has not funded gain-of-function research to be conducted in the Wuhan Institute.
The National Institutes of Health acknowledged that it funded research of a virus that was studied at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. The experiment unexpectedly, we're told, made a bat coronavirus more contagious than the original naturally occurring one.
Dr. Fauci, knowing that it is a crime to lie to Congress, do you wish to retract your statement of May 11th where you claimed that the NIH never funded gain-of-function research in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, I have never lied before the Congress, and I do not retract that statement.
A new letter raising questions about experiments in a Wuhan lab.
Let me finish.
You take an animal virus and you increase its transmissibility to humans.
Right.
You're saying that's not gain of function?
Yeah, that is correct. And Senator Paul, you do not know what you are talking about, quite frankly. And I want to say that officially. You do not know what you are talking about.
For years, the National Institutes of Health provided grant money to the EcoHealth Alliance Research Group, which conducted experiments with bat coronaviruses in Wuhan, China.
Fauci, that's literally what gain of function is. Listen to the words, gain of function, getting a new function. I love how Jake is like, it unintentionally happened. It's called gain of function. It's not called do nothing. So anyway, the guy's lied under oath. I don't think he deserves any of the credit or anything else. But anyway, the reason, and I know some of you might be watching this going, hey, wait a minute, we put all the COVID stuff behind us. But the point is that this is all going to come back again, right? I don't know that they'll throw another COVID type thing at us. But something, whether it's war related or zombie related or drone related or alien related or COVID related, something new will come into the system one of these days, and there will be a whole bunch of people who largely lied to us as people like Fauci at the government and the bureaucracy, or people like Jake or Joy or any of these other people. And it's like, how many of us will be fooled by them? Well, I hope it's going to be way less. One of the guys who's been poking holes through a lot of that nonsense while working at mainstream media is CNN's Scott Jennings. And well, here we go.
So we're not here talking about COVID vaccines, right? We're talking about measles, mumps, and rubella. Trump is now all of a sudden saying that he doesn't think that necessarily should be a part of when you send your kids to school and you're hoping that everybody around them is vaccinated adequately for these old illnesses that could kill them?
I think there's a number of things going on today. Number one, RFK hit the right note on Capitol Hill on the polio vaccine. Polio vaccine's fine. The boss, Trump, laid down the marker. We're not touching the polio vaccine. This was a frenzy over the last few days. This was totally put to bed today. So that's number one. Number two, if I were in their shoes, I would just simply say everything we do is going to be based on science and evidence-based decision-making, because that's all anybody really wants to hear. And if I were further advising RFK and Donald Trump on vaccines or anything else, I would say I'd like for science to go back to be science, because during COVID and during the last few years, science became religion. You know, when we're putting people up on pedestals and making prayer candles with their image on it and sewing pillows with their face on it, that's no longer science. That became a religion. So if I were in their shoes, I would say science is going to rule, evidence-based decision-making is going to rule, and that's how we're going to make all our decisions.
Look, mainstream media is going down, and it's deservingly so and all that, but it is worth illustrating every now and again when some truth leaks out. And that's why when I show you a lot of these videos of this guy, Scott Jennings, they just kind of sit there quietly because they don't have the hysteria to every now and again, you're racist or something, but like, there's not much of a counter to that. All we are asking for, all that Doge is going to do is go in there and look, is there waste? All that RFK is going in there to do is going, are we actually on the pursuit of science and truth here? Or have our institutions been taken over so that we're on the pursuit of ever more money for the pharmaceutical companies or whatever it might be? That's really what's going on here. So it's just like one of the tricks. It's one of the feathers that you should have in your cap as you watch mainstream media. Is this person protecting an old system that really hasn't been that great, or maybe was great for a lot of us, the boomer generation, and what really worked for quite some time, that at least post-COVID or pre-COVID, like right around COVID, let's say, into now, has been unmasked and clearly is not working. And then you're going to see people trying to fix it. And that really, so we have the reality battle, mainstream media versus online media, and how you get your news. And then it's also, you have the people who want to defend the system and seem to think that it's still working versus people that really just want it to work a little bit better and are willing to do some of the work to look under the hood and see what's going on there. Guys, let's talk about Ramp for a second. We'll have more in just a moment. Running a business is tough, and how you manage your finances, from expenses to vendor payments to accounting, can make or break your success. That's why you need a system that works as hard as you do, and Ramp could be a game changer. Ramp is a corporate and spend card management software that helps you save time and money. It gives finance terms unmatched control and insight into company spending. You can issue cards to every employee with set limits, automate expense reporting, and never waste time chasing receipts again. Ramp software collects receipts and categorizes expenses in real time so you can close your books up to 8 times faster. Best of all, Ramp is easy to use. You can issue virtual and physical cards and start making payments in less than 15 minutes, whether you have 5 employees or 5,000. And right now you can get $250 when you join Ramp. Just head on over to ramp.com/Rubin. That's ramp.com/Rubin. Cards issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC. Terms and conditions apply. All right, so you guys know that the big story this week on the legal front was that George Stephanopoulos over at ABC News was ordered to pay $1 million to Donald Trump. It's going to go to Donald Trump's campaign fund, or not the campaign fund, the Presidential Library Fund, if I'm not mistaken. And ABC has to pay $15 million for it because Stephanopoulos said to Nancy Mace on his show that Donald Trump was found liable for rape, which was not true. He was found civilly liable for defamation, and it seems fairly obvious that ABC was willing to settle because they did not want to have to open the books and then be like, oh, here's some of the other things we were doing on the DL as it pertains to Donald Trump. Anyway, this has sent shockwaves through mainstream media because they've lied about so many things for so long that I think they're all worried they're going to be sued into oblivion. I will preface this all by once again saying, as you guys know, I'm a free speech guy. I want everybody to have as absolute much leeway with speech, and people make mistakes and errors, and I want people to be able to joke and be sarcastic and mock people and all of those things. But we do have very stringent libel and slander laws, which if we don't, we are in like a absolute free-for-all where no one will ever know what is true at any level whatsoever. Chuck Todd, who's a major propagandist over on NBC News, he went on a podcast to talk about how concerned he is about this ABC lawsuit.
I mean, again, look at what he did to E. Jean Carroll. There is precedent for him being held liable for disparaging people personally. And he's done it so much that I know he loves to be litigious. And, I always thought the lawsuit was just designed for him to say he had a lawsuit.
Of
right?
course.
It wasn't right that it's sort of, why do you file the lawsuit against the media
when
company?
I was at CNN, he filed a lawsuit against CNN. He's filed lots and lots and lots of lawsuits.
And they always get thrown out. And this one would have too. I just don't see how they thought it wasn't going to be. Other than it was clear that there were, I think, Trump's side felt more motivated to go further than they have in previous.
Okay, again, I don't want people suing everybody over speech, but you see what Chuck's doing there. He's basically like, oh, ABC shouldn't have settled because this one would have gone away. Trump's litigious, he goes after people, this one would have gone away. So again, you have to think, so why didn't it go away? Why did ABC basically very quickly offer to pay $15 million and stop Stephanopoulos $1 million himself to make it go away? And I think the answer, I don't know this for a fact, but if you just thought about it for a moment, a giant corporation could absolutely spend the legal fees on fighting with Donald Trump about this, defend their guy, and say he said whatever he said, and it is what it is. But they did not want to go into discovery. That seems fairly obvious to me. One of the reasons that Chuck Todd, wants to make it seem like Donald Trump shouldn't sue people and that there should be no repercussions for people like them is that he's been one of the prime purveyors of putting people on air who lie about everything. I think we have one such video.
It's very dangerous, Chuck, because a lot of what you're seeing as attacks on me, quite frankly, are attacks on science. Because all of the things that I have spoken about consistently from the very beginning have been fundamentally based on science. Sometimes those things were inconvenient truths for people.
Why does a vaccinated person have to wear a mask?
Okay, this is something that as we get more information, it's going to be pulling back that you won't have to. But currently the reason is that when you get vaccinated, you are clearly diminishing dramatically your risk of getting infected. That's one of the things we've got to make sure everybody understands. You dramatically diminish it. However, what happens is that you might get infected and get absolutely no symptoms, not know you're infected, and then inadvertently go into a situation with vulnerable people. And if you don't have a mask, you might inadvertently infect them.
Oh, how funny, Anthony Fauci, not to do the greatest hits thing, but Joe Biden, the president of the United States, said that if you get the COVID vaccine, you will not get nor transmit COVID. That's what Rachel Maddow said. And that's actually what you all are saying right at the beginning of the whole thing. So you can connect that to Chuck Todd. I'm not saying anyone should be sued over that. But Chuck Todd has put people on who lie or manipulate us beyond human imagination. Also, that line, I mean, it's really one of the greatest lines of all time. When you attack me, you're attacking science. That is literally Mace Windu walking into Palpatine's office on Coruscant and saying, in the name of the Galactic Republic, the Senate will decide your fate, and him saying, I am the Senate. Like, blah! Dr. Drew, who's an actual doctor, who's not an alarmist, who's a decent human being, who was on the left most of his life and has now been red-pilled and woken up to not only his own industry, but the entire mainstream media. He was on Fox about a month ago talking about all of this stuff.
Yep. Well, I'm just glad to see that they moved from the blue talisman over their face and nose to a blue talisman bracelet on their wrist, because it's the same damn thing. And the whole headline here, Sean, is hysteria. Hysteria and delusion, and the source of this has been mainstream media. The American public has been propagandized to the point that they literally become mentally ill. And the thing about delusionality is it can't be reasoned with. We have literally been through a stage of delusion that started with the first Trump presidency. It was put into absolute orbit with COVID. We now have the new HHS document that showed how the propaganda was done, how many hundreds of millions of dollars were spent, and vulnerable people were affected by this. And I would say the way to deal with your family members that are like this, A, compassionate firmness. Firmness, not rationality, not discourse, because argumentation will not work. They are delusional. But firmness, because the reality is this is like a cult. What do cults do? They separate families. They separate the cult member from the family. And this is how they get their way. We must fight against that.
So the reason I wanted to show you that clip is Dr. Drew is making the through line that we went through years of hysteria and brainwashing as it relates to COVID. And what the left is doing now, and what the mainstream media and the bureaucracy lovers are doing now, is making everybody hysterical about Donald Trump, right? Hitler has now taken over the institutions, and he's bringing the billionaires in just so that Elon can get a few more government contracts. And I don't know, he can get richer and you can get poorer. It's complete and utter drivel. We will have more drivel from someone over at MSNBC in just a moment. But first, let me talk to you about BHMD1. We've been told our whole lives that wrinkle creams were the easiest way to look younger. Now, one doctor says that's nothing but old news. According to Dr. John Lake, the world-renowned Beverly Hills beauty expert, most wrinkle fixes on the market are nothing but glorified moisturizers. They hardly make a dent on your appearance, and some can even be harmful to your skin, he said. Recently, Dr. Lake has focused his attention away from mainstream cosmetic practices. Why? So he can pursue a revolutionary anti-aging breakthrough, one that some experts say could empty the wallets of the cosmetic industry. His personal clients have dubbed his new do-it-yourself technique the age rewinder method, because it can take years or even decades off your appearance in under 2 minutes. In light of this amazing breakthrough, Dr. Lake has released a step-by-step video to the public, free and uninterrupted, where he outlines exactly how to use this simple solution from home. The video has gone viral. At first, it was shared by users on Facebook, but since then, it's racked up over 2.3 million views and counting. So far, the comments and feedback have been outstanding, with thousands of women reporting they look decades younger. You can find out more about this for yourself. Go to bhmd1.com/Rubin or click the link in the description box below. Again, that's bhmd1.com/Rubin. Again, watch the video at bhmd1.com/Rubin right now or click the link in the description box below. All right. So since it is the season of joy, we've got another joy for you. I'm talking about Joy Reid over at the televised mental institution known as MSNBC, and she is very upset because my favorite story this week is that the Canadian government, led by Justin Trudeau, it might collapse, and it's in large part because Justin Trudeau went to Mar-a-Lago about a week and a half, and Trump smacked him around as it pertained to tariffs and border and a whole bunch more. And Joy is upset because, you know, Justin's just a great guy.
And right now, Trump is that toddler. And he wants nothing short of complete obedience and constant adulation for everyone to say they love him and praise him and tell him he's the best president ever. And it'll never be obsequious enough or vigorous enough. He'll always want more and punish and humiliate even those who do comply. Just ask Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, and all the black Republicans who went to the mat for Trump during the campaign only to get snubbed as he builds his administration. He will always reward weakness with more humiliation. And that includes foreign leaders like Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who went to Mar-a-Lago last month to kiss the ring, behaving like Trump was already president, which he's not. And how does Trump reward him? By publicly mocking Trudeau on his social media site, once again calling Trudeau the governor of the great state of Canada. Joining me now is Tim O'Brien, senior executive editor of Bloomberg Opinion and MSNBC political analyst. And I have to tell you, this Trudeau thing really bothered me. Let me just put up this tweet that Trudeau posted on, why is he still on X Twitter? But he posted this tweet of himself. Look at me next to Donald. Look, what is he doing? When will people learn, Tim, that emasculating yourself before Trump, as Ted Cruz did, as so many have done, doesn't help and just makes him worse?
All right. First off, I've mentioned that Trump obviously has gotten better and more controlled with some of the insults and the jokes and whatever. I don't have a problem with the 51st state thing and the governor thing. I can but if you're watching this and you're like, oh, I wish Trump would get past that stuff, I actually can fully accept that argument. So we'll put a pin in that for a moment. But Joy Reid, if you cared about America, wouldn't you be interested in the fact that Justin Trudeau left that dinner and then started talking to his team about the trade problems that basically Canada's been taking advantage of America, and Trump was like, we're not going to do this anymore, and we're going to protect the border. Like, you might care about the fact that Donald Trump is fighting for America, that we're going to get better trade parity with Canada now, that we'll have a better situation at the border, but you're obsessed with Justin's Trudeau masculinity. And the man, I'll tell you this, he really is just, when I think of masculinity, I think about it a lot. And I always get this image of Justin Trudeau with his lisp and his hair flowing like this. And, sometimes he's at a Taylor Swift concert. And I think of him and I'm like, my God, he's such a man. He's the man's man. Put up a video of him being a man, for God's sake.
Thank you all for being here tonight. It has been an eventful couple of days. It hasn't been easy, and that's why I'm so happy to see you guys. It's hard not to feel happy when we're like this, among liberals, among family, because that's what we really are, a big family. Now, like most families, sometimes we have fights around the holidays. But of course, like most families, we find our way through it. I love this country. I deeply love this party. I love you guys. And love is what families are all about.
I literally don't think I could ever be as gay as this guy. Like, I woke up this morning, there was a dude next to me in bed, and I don't think that's as gay as whatever's going on with this guy. Like, we're family, I love all of you, and we're fighting because we're family. Like, I'm not even that good at that. Like, all right. Not that there's anything wrong with it. Anyway, here he is, once again, what part of the theme bin today, which is that there's a certain set of people that want to protect the bureaucracy. They want to protect the institutions who have so severely failed us rather than protecting you, the individual. And Justin talked about that too.
Over 150 years of liberal history. In the meantime, the Conservatives have changed their names multiple times and changed their values more times than I can count. Call me old-fashioned, but I remember when conservative stood for protecting our institutions instead of trying to tear them down.
All right, I won't do the accent here for a second, because what he's saying there, you might think, oh, that's sort of right. The conservatives do want to tear down institutions. Yes, conservatives, libertarians, I would say classical liberals, virtually everybody except the bureaucrat-loving, progressive, socialist power mongers are now looking at the institutions going, the institutions have failed us. So it is wise to tear down or reform or rejigger or reconstitute institutions that are not working. If you have a problem in your home and something is not right, the plumbing is not right, the electric wiring is not right, the roof is leaking, you fix it. So the conservatives now, whether it's up in Canada or it's our Republican Party here, are looking at all of the problems, the corroded institutions that no longer work in the interests of the people, and they're looking to fix them. And you, the liberal who's always supposed to be looking for new frontiers of freedom, you are now protecting the institutions that largely have become the most anti-liberal things possible. But the Conservatives do have a good leader in Canada who hopefully will be the next Prime Minister of Canada. His name is Pierre Poilievre, and here he is.
Yesterday, we were reminded that if you hire clowns, you get a circus. But no one should be laughing, because there are real consequences for yesterday's chaotic liberal clown show. These are the consequences. The deficit is 50% higher than we were promised. Our dollar has plunged below 70 cents American for the first time in ages, which means more expensive fuel, food, clothing, and materials for things like automobiles. It means our people will be poorer and the dollars they work so hard to earn are worth less. The real consequences of yesterday's clown show are playing out in tragedies right across this country.
That's a good leader right there. Keep your eye on Paul LeVay. I mean, I think if the Canadians do the right thing, if Trudeau's government falls, which it might, but eventually there will be an election one way or another, it's like, this is the type of leader who can communicate the proper ideas. And by the way, that was a direct response in some sense to what Trudeau just laid out. Trudeau, the Conservatives used to defend the institutions. Well, there he is saying the institutions have failed us. And that's why the institutions, which have been infected by the Liberal government that Trudeau's been in charge of for 10 years there, that's why prices are high. That's why immigration is so bad, et cetera, et cetera. Let's connect this to one more thing going on here in the United States, which of course is our incredible political realignment right now. And one of the guys that I'm just interested in, I think I said yesterday on the show that Eric Adams, Democrat, progressive Eric Adams, who, as always, I will never let him off the hook until the full mea culpa apology comes for sanctuary city stuff and criminality that he allowed in New York City and all of that stuff. But he is waking up. He's really realizing what time it is, and you can see his evolution happening in real time. And we should always be interested in people like that, but also a little wary, a little curious as to their intentions. He went on Dr. Phil's show to talk about how his indictment, the DOJ is looking into him, how he believes it's related to him finally stepping up and standing up against the border crisis and the sanctuary city stuff.
Why do you think that happened? I think it's a combination of things, and I believe at the tip of it is I was extremely vociferous about what was happening to this city during the migrants and asylum seeker issue. I lived my life not only when I was a law enforcement officer, but as a state senator, a president, and a mayor, of following the law. And when you look into the crevices of the indictment, it clearly shows there's something that's just not right. And, Dr. Phil, I cannot tell you, the only consolation to this is that mommy's not alive. I would not want my mother to watch me go through this. And it hurts a lot. No American should go through being on the FBI watch list because you're standing up for your family member. That is just not what our criminal justice system is about. And that's the criminal justice system I fought for. I've been an advocate for proper criminal justice. And so I believe that the record is going to show I did nothing wrong. What I did right, I stood up for this city. And I believe there were those that just disagreed that why was I standing up to see what was happening to my city and happening to the families in the city.
All right, so again, you don't let the guy off the hook, but there's a guy saying, hey, I believed in the institutions, right? I was part of the institutions, and now I see how corrupt they are. So that's an interesting one to just track going forward. There are many people like that, many people going through their own awakenings. We always want it to happen faster. We always want the apology, all of that stuff. But I think it is worth tracking that. We got just a bit more from that.
This is in New York. President-elect Trump has been charged with a lot of things here. This is happening to you here. Is this something that has infected this district? Why do you think here this is going on? I started looking at my case and reading through it, and then I started to just go and search what has happened to other people. Not only to President-elect Trump, but there are other great patriots that have gone through a difficult period of time. And when you look at the amount of money you have to spend in defending yourself, you saw the leaks that were being slipped out and reported constantly. And as much as we ask the federal government, can you stop leaking this and allow us to have our opportunities to defend ourselves? And it's almost as though you have your hands tied behind your back because you can't talk as much as you want to push back on some of the accusations. But I think this is a national issue that we have to face. The American public is not aware of how I believe we have really abused our criminal justice system.
All right, so when he's saying we abuse our criminal justice system, he's largely saying that the Democrats who are in charge right now have abused the Department of Justice to look into people they don't agree with politically, whether that is Donald Trump and the ridiculous cases that have all disappeared about Donald Trump, or whether it's Eric Adams, who was one of them, started to go, uh-oh, maybe this isn't quite right, what we've done here with all this sanctuary nonsense, and they started looking into him largely because he got upgraded on flights and a few other what seem like nonsensical things. If a whole bunch of other stuff comes out, that he was taking money and quid pro quos and all of that, although Biden might be guilty of some of that stuff, then we'd have a different thing on our hand. I want to show you one more clip for today, which is that we mentioned yesterday briefly that one of the things that the Biden administration is doing right now is they're doing everything possible, and it's so damn unfortunate, to hamper the incoming Trump administration, because Biden, you're still, and I know it's not Joe Biden because his brain is not there, but it's like you had such an opportunity to pave a beautiful road for Donald Trump, and that could really, I would say, save whatever might be left of your legacy, as opposed to, oh, you were the president who got us to the precipice of hell. But instead, they've decided to go that way, and they are quite literally, for bargain basement prices, selling off pieces of the border wall so that it will be more expensive and complex for the Trump administration to build it. Here's Ted Cruz on that.
Tell you what the Biden administration is doing is brazen. Understand, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and the Democrats, they are filled with rage, and they hate Donald Trump. We know that. But they hate the voters. They are angry at the voters for how the American people voted on Election Day. And they are trying with bitterness to do everything to frustrate the will of the voters. So on the pardons, they're trying to do everything they can to frustrate the administration of justice. And I got to say, on the question of selling off the border wall, this is one of the most offensive things I've ever seen. Let me give you an analogy. Let's say you're a sheriff, you're an elected sheriff, and you get beat. You get beaten, so there's a new sheriff coming into office. And let's say you have 10 squad cars that are $50,000 apiece. And in your last week in office, you decide, I'm going to sell all the squad cars for $100 each because I hate the sheriff that beat me, and I want to make sure the new sheriff has no squad cars. Let me tell you what that is. That is theft of government resources. Let me be very clear to every official at the Department of Homeland Security or anywhere else who approves selling off incredibly expensive portions of the border wall for $5 apiece. You are engaged in theft of government property, and you should expect the Department of Justice to investigate you and prosecute you. This is a brazen abuse of power, and it reflects the views of this White House and Democrats across the board.
And guys, isn't that right? Like, let's just start doing adult things again. Right? Like Biden, you're on the way out and you're basically like ripping the copper wiring out and you're hacking away at the foundation of the building to make it as difficult as possible for Trump to go ahead. You know, this country is about we the people, not you and your administration. And the idea that you guys thought you could do this and get away with it and nobody was going to pay the price is ridiculous. So good on you, Ted Cruz. Good on you, Elon and Vivek, who will clearly look into this nonsense and see who's buying this stuff and what their contacts were and all of those things. And guys, yes, we will continue to unfurl this nonsense. I think, as I said at the top of the show, this was going to be a classic Rubin Report. It was just sort of a smooth adventure through the news today. I fully believe that's what we accomplished here. We got a post-game show in moments, rubinreport.locals.com. And later today, I'm doing my first one-on-one with Piers Morgan on his show. So he'll be interviewing me one-on-one. I go on those panels and we yell at people a lot, but it will be the first one-on-one where Piers will be questioning me solo on a bunch of the day's topics. We'll probably post some clips on our channels. I thank you for watching, and we will be back tomorrow.